So this is probably like the 37th video you clicked on this topic, and you're likely pretty sick and tired of trying to figure out how to get your ex back already. And I get it. A lot of advice out there claims that you can reattract an ex by simply waiting a few days, playing hard to get for a while, sending a couple of scripted text messages, faking a bit of confidence and indifference, maybe making an attempt to get your ex jealous, and bam, your ex is back in your arms, loving and lusting all over you. But the truth is, there's much more to getting an ex back than relying on simple, fake behaviors or tactics and tricks that you see promoted in most other ex back videos. To actually get back with your ex and stay together in a healthy and fulfilling relationship, well, you've got to deeply improve yourself. Because it's not about what you say or what you do that gets your ex back, it's about actually who you become that gets them back. So what you stand for, what you represent, what you embody. In other words, it's not about acting attractive that gets your ex back, it's about actually becoming attractive that gets them back. Now, becoming attractive may sound vague and abstract, but while emotionally difficult, it's actually quite simple. And it all boils down to embodying 6 key principles that I will explain in this very video. Starting right away with principle number 1, tell your ex that you want them back. Now, whether it's through a call, a text message, a letter, social media, or in person, whether it's been 1 week since your breakup or like 10 years, whether your ex told you that they never want to see you again, left in stark indifference or with, tears running down their face, whether they dumped you or you dumped them, it doesn't matter. If you haven't yet communicated and made it clear that you want them back, just tell them you want them back. It's really that simple. Just tell your ex you're still interested. Don't beat around the bush. Don't make it a big deal. Don't lose your center, become spineless, or act overly confident and become this overcompensating dipshit. Just be authentic, be bold, and say what's in your heart without expecting any specific answer in return, and without recoiling and retaliating if met with either a deafening silence or a blatant rejection. Now, if your ex is receptive and enthusiastic after you express your interest, invite them out on a date and jump to principle number 5 in this video. But if after you express your interest, your ex is unreceptive and cold, maybe even mean or vicious, or if they blocked, ghosted, or ignored, or rejected you, be that indirectly with like an excuse, or directly, like for example when they tell you, I don't want you back, period. If any of that is the case, end the conversation and move on. Then only give them another shot if they reach out first. If that happens, move on to principle 5. Now let's actually talk about moving on, which is principle 2. Move on with your life, aka apply what's called the no contact rule. Now moving on, this means exactly what you think it does. You let your ex go and you never contact them again for any reason. Or to be more specific, don't call and text your ex anymore. Don't engage with their social media. Don't go to places where you could stumble on them. Hide or throw away everything that reminds you of them. Distance yourself from mutual friends and your ex's family, or cut them out of your life completely. Now, if you still live with your ex, move out or move them out. If that's impossible, only talk to them if it's really important. And keep your conversations businesslike, to the point, and end them as soon as you make some mutually beneficial agreement or decision. Take the same approach if you also, let's say, share kids, pets, or you work together. Now, generally speaking, the more physical and emotional distance you put between your ex and yourself, the more likely it is that you will raise their attraction, get them to miss you, and eventually reach out. Whereas the less distance there is between you, the less likely it is you'll raise their attraction, get them to miss you, and of course reach out. So put another way, the best way to get somebody's attention is to remove yours. Moving on to principle number 3, it's all about investing in your relationship with yourself. Now here are some self-investment guidelines. If you don't perhaps know where to start, some things you should get in order regardless where in the reattraction process you reside. So rapid fire, sleep enough and get quality sleep. Have a healthy diet and don't eat too much. Exercise regularly and do some sort of physical activity, even if it's like just a short walk, every day. Be clean and presentable. Double down on engaging with your hobbies and hanging out with friends and family. If you're overworked, take some time off. If you still live with your parents but are of the ripe age and you have the means for it, move out. If you don't have any responsibilities like studies or work or child rearing, go and get some. Experiment with modalities that will help you calm down and get a grip on your emotions. So modalities like meditation, journaling, gratitude practices, yoga, or, probably the best idea, therapy. Also, invest in your character. That is your set of interesting hobbies and passions and opinions and desires that make you stand out when compared to other potential mates your ex has available. Also, very important, find something more important than your ex. Something that gives you direction and some sort of purpose despite your breakup. For example, fighting for a cause you believe in, being part of some movement, nurturing another relationship, excelling in your career, engage in some passion, mastering a particular skill, developing some healthy habit, and so forth. You get the idea. Also, start dating, especially if it begins to feel fun and exciting. That's gonna be a big neon billboard telling you that you should probably try it out. Also learn to stand up for yourself often and erect and assert healthy boundaries. Also learn to be vulnerable with yourself and others, to express what you really feel and think, regardless of how embarrassing or uncomfortable it may seem. Then work on finding ways to raise your self-worth and esteem. And finally, of course, avoid your typical unattractive behaviors like chasing your ex and pursuing them, begging and pleading for another shot, acting indifferent, trying to game and manipulate them, looking for approval, seeking validation, and so on. Now for principle number 4. Ponder if getting back with your ex is even a good idea. Because look, here's the truth. The only people qualified for getting back with an ex are those who are unattached to the outcome of whether or not they will get them back, are content and happy with themselves, and who know that if they do get back with their ex, they could form a healthy relationship with them. Now, to determine whether or not you are one of these lucky few individuals, answer this for a start. Why do you want your ex back in the first place? Take a few minutes, ponder on the question, then reflect on a couple of more, ideas. Do you want your ex back because you are afraid of being single? Because you are, let's say, miserable and lonely without them? Because you can't imagine having a happy life without them? Because you think you'll never find anyone better, or because you believe you're not good, worthy, or skilled enough to find anyone better, to find someone better. Now, if you answered yes to any of these questions, you shouldn't try to get back with your ex. You are clearly not in the right headspace and you probably will fail. Thus, I would focus on breakup recovery instead, at least until you come to a mindset that's of a more healthier variant. However, if you answered no to all of these questions and you are certain that despite missing your ex, you are happy with yourself and you're unattached to whether or not you will get them back, then continue answering 3 additional qualifying questions, very important questions. Are you and your ex compatible? Meaning aligned in your values, beliefs, and worldviews. Are you going, in the same direction? Do you know why you broke up and are prepared to work on those flaws to avoid another breakup? That's the second question. And the third one, are you and your ex mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy and don't have any major toxic tendencies that might damage your relationship? Now for the verdict. If you answered yes to the questions that I just went over, sure, you're qualified to pursue reconciliation, so congrats. But if you answered any of them with a no, consider moving on. Just consider it, because you probably will not be mending any relationship, at least when it comes to the long term. So we only have 2 principles left, so this is a good place to talk about today's sponsor, myself. So if you want to learn how to pinpoint and maximize the odds of reuniting with your ex, I urge you download my free reattraction cheat sheet, link below this video in the description. Anyhow, moving on to principle number 5, set a date if your ex reaches out or if they are receptive after you stated your interest, as we talked about in the first principle. So, to be a bit more specific, suppose your ex reached out during contact and they're not interested in discussing logistics like children, pets, living arrangements, work, or let's say shared possessions, but they are curious about you as a person. That's a clear sign of interest. It's also your potential shot at mending things. So leverage it by setting a definite date with your ex. And do the same thing if your ex is receptive after expressing your desire to mend things. Now this means that they are willing and able to start seeing you again romantically, and they reciprocate your advances. Same story if you have already had a date with your ex and they just reached out again, indicating that they want to spend more time with you. At absolutely any of those points, setting a definite date is crucial. And here's how to go about it. Really simple. Start by engaging in a short conversation, let's say a 3 to 5 text, message exchange, or a 5-minute phone call. Then, preferably somewhere at the start or at the beginning of this conversation, simply ask your ex out. Really that simple. And after you invite them out, you will get 1 out of 3 responses. The first one being the best one, your ex commits to the date. In other words, they are enthusiastic about seeing you and give you the times that they are free. If this happens, just agree on a time that suits you both and be sure to also pick an exact location for your date, the starting location at least. Now, the second response your ex can give you is that, well, they reject you, they do not commit to the date. Now, if this happens, just withdraw the date invite, end the conversation, and go back to no contact. So principle number 2. Then try to set up another date only if your ex reaches out again in the future. And as for the third response your ex can give you when you invite them on a date, they give this non-committal, wishy-washy type of a response, of an answer. Like, for example, how they have to check their schedule, how they don't know if they will make it, how they may be late, how they will call you back, how they have some errands to take care of, and so on. As a rule of thumb, treat a maybe response like a rejection. Besides, you just don't want to waste time with your ex if they're only half interested in seeing you. Those dates are tedious and often lead nowhere. You want your ex to be 100% willing, able, and ready to rekindle things, or at least date you properly, as in romantically, which is what you want. Now, generally, the more resistance you encounter when you're setting a date with your ex, the higher the likelihood that they will turn you down, cancel, be a no-show, or ignore/ghost you at some point. So just putting that out there, keep note of it. And finally, for principle number 6, it's all about getting back together with your ex and staying together. So once you've gone on a couple of dates with your ex and you can sense things are getting a bit more serious, so there is more sex, more intimacy, more personal conversations, more verbal exchanges of love, then comes the most critical part of getting back together with an ex, which is recommitment. Now here's how to approach it. If your ex brings up the topic of getting back together, great. Have the talk and come to some mutually beneficial decision. And if they haven't brought it up yet, but you can clearly sense you're already acting like a couple, meaning you are spending a lot of time together, you're kissing, you're making out, you're having sex, etc., bring up the topic yourself. Then let your ex respond. Maybe they will try again, maybe they won't. And if they don't, please respect their decision. Generally, how you do move forward really comes down to what you actually want, so your values and your boundaries. So what I mean when I say this is that if casually dating your ex is something that's fine with you, by all means keep doing it. But if it's not, if you don't like to just, casually date them, you need to clearly communicate that and part ways. If, of course, your ex cannot give you what you want. You have to, respect yourself enough here to be able to pull off this maneuver. And if you're feeling really ballsy, or if you're more of a open-minded sort, which no problem at all, you can also consider options like an open relationship or a friends with benefits type of a relationship. The point is that as long as you are congruent with what you actually want, you will be fine emotionally speaking, you will be happy, and things just might work out. Now, if you did get back together with your ex, things can work out, of course, but it's only if both of you have adequately emotionally improved and are willing to really work on your relationship and not repeat the same mistakes that led to the initial breakup. A couple of things I already talked about in the 4th principle that I went over in this video. Anyway, the, ending thought here when it comes to really getting back together with an ex is that you really want to remember relationships do not end because two people did something wrong to each other. Relationships end because two people are something wrong for each other. So with that out of the way, thanks for watching. Again, if you want to go deeper into my process for getting an ex back, download my reattraction cheat sheet, link in the description down below. And with that being said, thanks for watching and take care.